I'd like to call the meeting to order for the PBA for February 19th, 2026. This meeting is recorded. Just wanted to let everyone know that. We do have a quorum with 3 members, so we can proceed.
We have 4 for this.
4 members for this, 4 members. But Mark will recuse himself for the second meeting, for the second applicant. So the agenda for tonight, the first one we're going to do Danielle Frazier and Trenton Olvers.
Yeah, I think she thought the D was an O, it's all misspelled, but it's Dirksen.
Oh, Dirksen, okay, yeah, there's definitely an O. For 57 Church Street in Chatham, it's application 2026-002, and this is, we're going to have a public hearing. You have receipts for, did you notify neighbors?
I did, oh, do you need, I did, I sent all the certified mail, I didn't know.
And did you get them back? All the receipts back?
I got the receipts from the post office when I went, I didn't receive like anything.
It's not, they're not some return receipt requested.
Yeah, well, you don't have.
She can email a picture to me or bring them in tomorrow.
Yeah, they don't send you like a confirmation.
Well, we just need to see them, that verifies that you
Oh.
notified them, that's all.
Okay,
I'm in tomorrow, you can bring them in.
okay. I did.
Yep.
I did it before the 19th, which was the cutoff, so.
Okay. So this is a public hearing, and we make a motion to open the public hearing section of the meeting for this applicant. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, Danielle wants to put a fence up in front of her property at 4 feet, which is allowed, but she wants to make it a solid fence, which needs a variance for that. Do you have anything additional from what we went over, or what you showed us?
No, nothing has changed. I don't know if you need me to like present what I did last time again, but it's all the same.
Everything's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is anybody here?
I wouldn't recognize their faces,
Well,
and
it's-
so I don't know.
I don't see anybody here to speak about this,
Yeah, I mean, it was
proposal.
yeah,
Give us pictures.
the railroad, the high school, Top Form Auto Shop.
That you-
and a couple of neighbors, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Danielle about this? What's the looking for?
This is the...
Oh, that's the other one, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've got it here.
I don't know why it's not in my original folder.
Stephen, you don't have an application for me, Stephen?
I do have the application, but I don't have the sheet that shows I don't know why I don't have the photographs that she submitted of the fence. Where would it be? It would be right in here.
This is like the last page of
Do
the
you have a
packet.
copy of that?
No, I don't either.
Oh, here we go. So this is what we're talking about in front of this house. It's a solid fence at 4 feet, and it goes straight across. It doesn't turn, right? There's no return to it.
Return, it's essentially a blind, it's not even the entire front
Right.
perimeter of the property.
And what happened is that Danielle put the fence, was doing the fence, didn't realize that that was something that needed a variance, and so work has stopped on it. But what we see when we look at the fence is basically what we're gonna get. That's basically same materials, you were using those materials that were set up. And everyone's done a site view? Did you go by, you know?
I pass it every day.
Yeah, we pass it every day, and I did pull into the parking lot there, although we didn't notify you directly. It's kind of a public roadway, so it was easy to see, you know, without
Yeah.
notifying you of that. So, we have a worksheet, some questions we need to ask you. And we have to do this, so any variance needs to be verified through these considerations. And the first one is whether undesirable, do I need to close the public hearing? I can keep the public hearing going until we're done, right?
Close it now. We can just-
Yeah, let's make a motion to close the public hearing. Since this- So,
And is this something I filled out before as well, or?
no, you didn't fill anything out.
Oh,
This
okay.
is our worksheet for
Okay.
our decision-making.
Gotcha.
But the first one is whether undesirable change would be produced in character of neighborhood or determined to nearby properties. And when I go by that house, it's banked with commercial properties on either side. It's almost the only resident, other than across the street. You have some people across the street. But it's a very congested commercial area, in my opinion. I don't think that this particular fence would change the character of the neighborhood, given those other characteristics that's so by. You're right next to that auto body shop and the gym and the dry cleaners, which is probably pretty busy. Because
Yes.
it's the only dry cleaner, the only cleaners in town, which is great. Does anybody have any other comments on that? You feel any one way or the other about this number one?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Number two is whether benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by any feasible alternative to getting a variance. We talked about shrubbery type of thing, but because the road so close to, on the state highway, the plows that come through there for clearing snow is a nightmare. You can shovel and then you get snow comes and it just plasters the snow. And this would protect your lawn, it would protect and it would be anything that would be a shrubbery would be only seasonal, most likely. You wouldn't be able to have.
Yeah. No, if I had shrubbery right now, it'd be buried and probably dead under
Right.
our last storms, yeah.
So I think that this is a pretty good alternative, and I appreciate that you're not in here going up. You don't want to go 6 feet, which is what we really don't want to see in the village, but to have it solid versus open. So open would have been 30, I think the number's 35% open, which is like a picket fence, you know, pretty much, which wouldn't really achieve what you need to do. And whether it's a substantial request, the variance, given what I just stated, I don't know how the board feels about it, but given what I stated, I don't think it's substantial. I think if you were coming in here asking for a 6-foot fence, it would be, you know, more. We don't want to create that wall in the village of fences and tall and stuff like that. Any comments about that? You don't have to agree with me on everything, you know.
Well, the only thing I wanted to
Yeah.
ask was, now if you were to grant the variance, it would be based on the proximity of the commercial area around it.
I think it's a unique location for
Right.
having a
Because
house.
other people then would say, well then, you know, if they came in and wanted this 4-foot solid fence.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that this is a unique situation, given the circumstances. I think somebody, residential, other street that wasn't busy like this, would probably, put up a picket fence, you know, that it would be hard to frankly, given this unique
No,
situation
it's
here.
really specifically about like the auto shop accepts, vehicles being towed in 24 hours a day. And so I get these like tow trucks and headlights coming into my home, at random hours, middle of the night. And then on the flip side, the laundromat is open very early in the morning and late at night, and cars, idling and stuff like that. So it's really kind of like specifically tailored to the conditions dictated by what's happening on either side.
That's all, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll make trouble. I kind of wondered why you weren't asking for fences along the sides as well.
I love fences on the side. When I bought the house 3 years ago, there were very dilapidated fences on the sides, and I've sort of repaired them. So there are fences on the sides, but they stop where they stopped when I bought the property, and so I think that must have just been what the ordinances kind of.
Do they protect you from the same kind of light that you're getting?
Sort of. I mean, at my own expense, I've repaired them all. Well, and then on the fourth side, it's the train. So then it's the train and the lights and the sound.
she wouldn't have to be here for a fence on the side yard coming through.
Yeah.
She could put up a 6-foot fence on the side yard, just that when it hits the front of the house Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it hits the front of the house to the street, it would have to drop down to a 4-foot.
And actually, I believe it's only the front wall that can't be created, like she could do a solid 4-foot fence on the sides.
On the
Yeah.
side, so
Yeah.
that's not something that's,
And I think it's
Yeah.
just the reason I can't connect it, there's some electrical
electric
poles
wire on
and
the right side.
the billboard for the
Oh, yeah.
businesses on the side, so there's kind of just
yeah,
this gray area that, I might revisit it someday, but.
right. And then, anybody else? No? And then, would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? I don't think so. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Why'd you buy the house?
Because I wanted to be here tonight, fighting for a fence.
I don't think it was self-created, and I think it relieves quite a bit of hardship actually for her in that location. And those are the questions. So with that, does anyone on the board have any other questions for Danielle? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to grant this variance for a solid 4-foot fence running the length of your property, shown in the application drawing, both color and back. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, granted.
Thank you very much.
Have fun fencing.
Thanks, I'll finish it up.
And
I'll
just for
send-
the record,
I will.
get those,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
just good to have it in the file.
Yeah, I
Great.
think the
Yeah.
final approval has to be subject to receiving.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's final approval subject, but you're gonna do that tomorrow, so.
Yep.
Send it to you, Ron.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Right, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we're gonna move on to,
Yeah, see,
yeah.
I'm just gonna move over to the corner, because that's okay, Ken?
All right, thank you for letting us get that out of the way, everyone. The next application is application 2026-001, applicant Terry Buck and Allison Group, 2 Fairview Avenue, New York. I don't think you can read the tax map number, but parcel number 66.5-2-15. And this is a public hearing on the appeal. I don't have that wording we're appealing the, well,
Determinations of the code enforcement.
thank you, determination for the code enforcement officer. And this is a public hearing, so I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for this.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. So moved. So let's begin by, does everyone have this sheet of paper we handed out? We just wanted to go over some rules and procedures for the hearing. And we're gonna pretty much stick to this rule. I don't want to read it into the minutes, it's not necessary, but just be aware of those topics here.
Sam, you got
By the way, that's for the general public. I mean,
What's that?
That's for the general public.
General public, yeah, it's for the general public. And just, it's more behavioral, procedural things. So, Terry, can we hear from you first? If there's new, well, you can,
Can we do Allison first?
Huh?
Can we do Allison first?
well, aren't you together?
Yes.
We're together. Our own take on things.
Well, it's on one application.
One application, so you can come up together, you can speak.
Yeah, you can speak from there, or you can come up here,
Okay.
or however you want to do
Guys,
it.
for hearing us
Yeah,
again this evening.
And I think, since there are 6 different things, you're gonna go through them one at a time, so you should both speak on each one of them.
I have 3.
You mean the things that you wrote down last meeting? What do you mean 6 things?
6 items.
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with the items that you alleged in the first place, but I'm saying, you are a single, this was submitted as a single
Yeah,
appeal, so you're
yeah.
together, so
Yes.
you should. Alright, so,
if you bring up something, let's hear from Terry and you as one applicant.
so, I mean, there's some, I just wanna go through some of the
Yeah,
preliminary
yeah,
stuff.
sure, go ahead.
So, as everybody understands, this is an appeal to the zoning board of appeals, and it is appeals of determinations made by the code enforcement officer. That is that is the full scope of what can be appealed. So, just to be clear, for example, when they're both New York state law and they're in the village code, the authority of the board to hear appeals is only with respect to the administrative official charged with the enforcement of the zoning law. To be perfectly clear, any decision or any action taken by the planning board or anybody else is not subject to the review. It is not within the zoning board's authority to hear anything of that. So we should not be getting into what the planning board did or didn't do, how they viewed things, how they determined things. That is outside the scope of the zoning board's lawful authority. There needs to be an identification of determinations or decisions made by the code enforcement officer. And what I guess we could recap from the last time, this is the way that they've been laid out. 1, the applicants appeal the determination, and I say when I use the word determination, I imply it by the code enforcement officer. Applicants appeal the determination that the utility pole structure did not require a special use permit. You're appealing the code enforcement officer's decision that the pole did not require a special use permit, and you've cited several sections as your basis. You made that contention once under sections 11045 and once under sections 11015. The applicants appeal the determination that the expansion of the utility facility was permissible because it was within the 25% expansion of the non-conforming use permitted by 11045A. The applicants appeal the code enforcement officer's determination that the utility pole did not require an area variance for height. That's sort of made in two ways also. One's based on 110.14B and 110.8, and another one on 110.14B and part of section 110.15, but they both go to the same point. And the final one is an allegation that the public hearing notice wasn't properly provided. So those are the 6 points that we went through at the end of last meeting. Tried to look at that with the written document submission and such. Is that what everyone understands? Yes.
Yeah.
So her decision is based on certain information. Are we allowed to consider that information that she decided, that she used as her decision?
Yes, I mean, you point to the decision she made, and then you're going to,
No, back up.
and then you would argue why that decision is incorrect. So yes, I mean, there were things that, but the decisions are what we're talking about. One, so it really comes down to 4 real things. Her decision that the pole did not need to be part of the special use permit review. That the pole did not require height variance. Those are, the other 2, one of the questions is, are they even decisions of hers? The third one was that the expansion was acceptable because it was less than a 25% increase. And the last one had to do with notice. So those are the things.
And you mentioned height too.
That'd be right, that was one
Okay,
thing. So the 2 main points of contention is her determination that the pole did not need special use permit and did not need to be considered in the special use permit review, and that the pole replacement did not require an area variance for height. Those are really the 2 main things that she determined that you were challenging. You look puzzled.
Well, but she approved of the application, and that's like as a whole picture right there.
She did not approve of the application.
What did she do? She didn't approve it?
The planning board approved the site plan and special use permit.
And then she approved of the building permit.
Zoning
No.
permit.
That is not, no.
Zoning permit was issued for what the planning board approved the special use permit for. It's not a building permit.
It's not a building permit.
No, because the uniform code does not regulate the infrastructure of the utility company. So it's not a building permit.
Then why
She's
is
talking about the building permit that you issued for.
It's a zoning permit.
It
It's not a
says
building.
building permit.
Yeah,
No, it's highlighted, it says zoning permit only on it.
Okay,
it says application for building use permit.
building use permit.
Yeah.
That's what I've been looking at for months. So-
Correct, yes, the building
Okay,
use
so that's
permit.
what I'm talking about. So that was approved by you, right? This application.
No, it was approved by the planning board, and I issued the zoning permit based on the conditions approved by the planning board.
Okay,
She sends the application to the board.
yes,
She doesn't decide the application.
yes.
So that's what I'm saying. You are,
But you're using the information, well, just start and I'll,
Yeah, so I'll start.
all right, but before, all right, there are more preliminary things. There's a lot,
Yeah, it's
there's a lot of
It's
technicalities.
complicated.
Oh, I
and you're
know,
taking your
Tell
time.
us
Take your
about
time.
All right. So things I just want to put on the record because they're essential prerequisites to this. The first thing is, as I said, the New York State, the village code, referring to the zoning board, says the board shall have all the powers and duties prescribed by law and by this chapter. Under appeals, the village code, section 11064, outlines 3 types of appeals that the zoning board may hear, appeal, and decide. Under the village code, section 11064, there's actually no provision for a third-party appeal. It involves any matter where the applicant, that being the property owner, alleges the building inspector was in error in refusing to issue a zoning permit. There's also any matter where the applicant alleges that the building inspector was in error in the determination of a district boundary line. And the third is any matter where the building inspector appeals and grounds as the doubt of the meaning of this chapter. In the Village of Chatham Code, there isn't any provision for a third-party appeal to this board. However, it does have the provision, as I mentioned, 11057D, that the board shall have all the powers and duties prescribed by law and by this chapter. Under the New York State Village Law, section 7712A4, under hearing appeals, it says, unless otherwise provided by local law, the jurisdiction of the Board of Appeals shall be appellate only and should be limited to hearing and deciding appeals from and reviewing any order, requirement, decision, interpretation, or determination made by the administrative official charged with the enforcement of any local law adopted pursuant to this article. Such appeal may be taken by any person aggrieved or by an office or department, board, bureau of the village. So under that provision, Village Code says that the powers prescribed by law, the New York State law says the appeal may be taken by a person aggrieved, which brings in the potential for third-party appeals. It's under that you would be proceeding. An aggrieved person, though, is not just any person. To be aggrieved and to qualify a person, quite a person, there are lots and lots of cases that state this in logical ways, but in some, to be, quote, aggrieved, a person must show that they have, in quote cases, been adversely affected by the activities, or put another way, that they have sustained special damage different in kind and degree from the community generally. It says, while something more than the interest of the public at large is required to the petitioning party must have a legally cognizable interest that is or will be affected by the zoning determination. In short, much as I know many people would like it to be otherwise, appellants cannot appeal on the basis of general community concerns or interests. It has to be a personal interest that you can demonstrate that you or your property has suffered a specific injury as a result of this that is different from the general public. So, for example, somebody who lives on Canaan or there's no question they would have could not be aggrieved in this case. It's a very specific thing. Proximity is typically the basis for that, but in many cases, for standing, most of these refer to standing in the courts because the aggrieved persons is analogous to standing for courts. For standing to sue, petitioners must show that they've suffered an injury in fact distinct from that of the general public. So, given that you are seeking status as an aggrieved person, you should articulate for the board what it is that causes you specifically to suffer something distinct from the general public as a result of this.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I can do that.
Okay. So, proximity is we are very adjacent to the substation. We can see the pole, the new transmission pole, when we walk out our front door. It's boom, right there. I think there's going to be some land property reduction in our property value. And the grievance is mostly, honestly, the treatment that we've received from the planning board.
That's not.
I'm just saying our grievances
That has nothing to do
stem from the whole project in whole, and we've been trying to understand it as a whole project, right? And
Let me add,
Can
before you go any
I
farther,
finish?
I'll tell you why.
No, because we-
I know,
I know you don't want to go into it anymore.
I'm saying why, because your injury needs to be what they call a cognizable interest that is one of the things protected by the zoning code itself.
Okay,
The
so
the interactions with the zoning board
I'll
itself.
reword it. I would say it's industrial encroachment on a residential area. That's what I would say. It's a residential area, it's a dead end, we're surrounded by woods, the creek is there, the blast furnace, the historical blast furnace is there, and it's encroachment, industrial encroachment into a residential area. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, he's sitting right out there, he's 6 years old, and the possibilities of childhood leukemia are wild. We don't know the answers, but we do know that there's a lot of it being experienced through people who live close to these type of facilities. Now, the thing that worries me is the antenna that's going on top of that tower, which I would like, by the way, to get straight. I'm talking about the tower, not a utility pole. Talking about the thing that had a 13-foot hole dug, 9 feet wide, filled with cement, 60 feet high, and there's an antenna going up there. And this is a building, and it's a culvert. There's a culvert that goes to it, and all kinds of activities going on in this pole. There's microwave, GPS, EMFs, radio frequencies, and all of these things have effects on children because their DNA changes so fast.
Do you have
Causes cancer.
documentation on that?
I do, books, if you'd like.
Right.
I've been working on this for 6 months.
Right. This board has just established that they have a claim specific. It has nothing to do with the decisions themselves, that's a different, first, it's a threshold thing. You're articulating specific things that affect you personally.
Absolutely.
That's important to put on the record. Without that, nothing to proceed.
Okay.
I don't know if you need to add any more than that. I think
Yeah,
it's-
I don't think so, yeah.
So I think that you probably.
Pass the test.
So that extent. Secondly, those are thresholds to be qualified to bring the appeal. Okay, the next thing, there are also threshold questions that apply on each of the individual claims, which we'll have to go through, which they may be the same for all, they may not, but in each question, is the appeal, the question that you're raising, is the appeal an appeal of an order, requirement, decision, interpretation, or determination made by the administrative official charged with the enforcement of the code? It has to be in relation to the code enforcement officers.
Yes.
And it cannot be. So if any of these things were not decisions of the code enforcement officer, but they were actions or decisions of somebody else, they're off the table as well. And so each one would have to be evaluated on that basis. And the second one, with respect to each decision, was the appeal was filed with the board January 5th, 2026. Was the appeal made within the required 60-day time period from the time of the filing of the challenge determination? Both the New York State law and the Village of Chatham are consistent. That is standard. New York State Village Law, section 7712A. An appeal shall be taken within 60 days after the filing of any order, requirement, decision, interpretation, or determination of the administrative official. The Village of Chatham Code also reiterates the same thing. Notice of appeal should be filed with the building inspector and the secretary of the board in writing in a form required by such board within 60 days of the date of the action appealed from. So in each case, there also has to be a demonstration that the determination appealed from was within 60 days prior to January 5th of 2026. And so, because these are different, there are several different things at issue here, in each case, we'll have to address those things in the first place before getting to the question of whether the determination was correct. So, I just want to outline the necessary process to go through these things. And so with that, I think you can begin to address the specific questions.
Okay. A lot of my topics are in response to the code enforcement officers' responses from January 15th that were posted online, the responses from the 15th, and from February that were posted yesterday, February 18th. It is said in those notes that the table of use regulations, any public utility structure needs a special use permit.
All right, wait, let's do the threshold one. So the first one, this will, I also say, we try to put these things, write these things out to reflect what we.
If you have them in order, sorry, just tell me and I'll write them down.
Oh, okay. Actually, can we just take, sorry, can we just get a quick copy of it, so they're all the way it's written out? That'd be great. Sorry.
I think the reason for it is just so we have things organized and they're not flying all over the place.
Absolutely, I totally understand. It's
Sam?
a lot.
We got like 4 or 5 so people can see what we're looking at. Yeah. Thanks, sorry. I should have made one of those.
Is it a good idea to hear correspondingly with Aaron versus areas and going down?
It might be easier to do one by one, so that it'd probably be easier to keep track of who says what if you do
Independently.
point by point, as opposed to the entire thing.
And then have Aaron do her time.
Absolutely.
It'd be better, I think, for us to understand that.
100%.
So I think spring's coming, huh? Everyone in agreement? Felt great today, right?
Nice in here.
But we're losing our snow.
You just, Sam, you just do that one page, right? You don't need the whole thing.
I thought you needed all of them.
No, just the page,
Just the worksheet page.
that
right?
first page has all the 6 things right together.
You didn't give them this page, did you? No. This,
It just, the one that lists the 6 allegations altogether. The other section repeats it with spaces
Yeah.
filling, so that,
We got one.
sorry.
this you're giving them?
Just,
Yeah. The 6, this is.
oh, the second page.
Yeah, the second page of
The one
the,
that- this is-
that's the packet, yeah.
Sure.
Clerk 101.
Right, so I think that list incorporates this code
Okay.
sections that you brought.
Okay, so the first one is discussion of the goals that did not receive a special use permit. It says I allege, but I got that from the code enforcement officer who claims it's a non-conforming use structure.
All right, wait, first of all, again, before you, one at a time, sorry, but I mean, this, the threshold ones. Is this an appeal of the
Yes.
order? Yes, okay.
Yes,
The-
this was the
The
decision to
second one,
take.
but the second one, what is the date of the determination appealed from?
For the second one?
No, the first
For
one.
the first one.
The decision
That would be,
that it did not require special use permit.
let me see what's in this one now. I believe it was December 7th. Well, yes, December 7th. The decision was to take off the structure from the special use permits.
Actually, it was
And-
October 31st.
Whatever you, don't give you a chance to read that.
Okay.
You're gonna. you're
Right,
saying
so
that-
my, Was that publicly notified, that information?
was
Was
sent-
it filed?
It was, yes, it was filed with the planning board.
Okay, so it wasn't public knowledge to us, and so I applied for a FOIA request and got that information in December. That's why I got that determination in December.
December what?
December,
Sorry?
yes. Let's see.
So December 7th was when it was filed?
I don't know when it was filed. It was not public knowledge, though.
How did you know to check on December 7th?
I received it in an email from Aaron.
So through the FOIA packet.
The FOIA package I received in January, the email saying it was non-conforming use structure was from December, but I received it through the FOIA in January. But the email was determined through the email in December.
Which I'd like to make a point, it's very difficult following all this stuff, because
Sure
there's
is.
Facebook, and there's this, and then, I mean, it's been an education on the computer for me. You know, I'm not equipped to like, know where to go to find information that I'm relying on.
So that date of 12/7,
And that's
To-
their claim, and everyone's
Yeah,
gonna have.
yeah, and everyone's
so
gonna have
We're
their-
just hearing from people.
Yeah,
That's why
right.
you're hearing.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Essentially
no, I get it, but
testifying
we're
part of it.
comparing that date to the January 5th date, right?
October.
Well, at first you're just hearing, they're saying, that's the date they're alleging.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know right now. You're not gonna decide until you hear everything.
I understand that, I'm just trying to get that,
Yeah.
All right, so now
So
they're claiming
it
that
was
they were
made,
timely, so now we go ahead.
brought to my attention only in January that this was a non-conforming structure. That fact alone requires it to have a special use permit. It, doesn't matter if it's really what it is, it's a non-conforming structure and it requires a special use permit to enlarge or to change in any way.
So we're talking about the pole here.
Yes, the transmission tower.
You're claiming that the pole is a non-conforming use requiring a permit. Based on,
Internal emails that I acquired through a FOIA request.
I'm trying to find what code would require it.
110/45?
Well, there's a lot of different codes. There's 11043C, a non-conforming structure or any structure located on a non-conforming lot cannot may be reconstructed, structurally altered, restored, or repaired, provided that the degree of non-conformity is not increased. So those are,
You've got to go with, you missed a bunch of code sections in the papers and other things. You've got to go with those.
that was on the
11045.
original application.
11045.
I'd also like to point out that we made previous complaints with codes connected to them, that this is not our first list of codes.
This is your appeal.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
So you're claiming the pole is a non-conforming use requiring a special use permit.
Yes. I'd also just like to note that I did add this code 11015C5 on the application, which we went over, which discusses accessory structures or structures, and I just want to comment on that because the code enforcement officer said that was accessory structures are not relevant, but it's or structure, so it's any structure used in connection with the principal structure or use, so it's not just accessory structures. And the same thing I found in her response about the height. She said that height applies to buildings only. I couldn't find that anywhere in the code.
One thing at a time.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know where that is coming from. Height regulations apply to buildings.
Wait, one thing at a time. Right now,
Do you
we're
want me
still.
to back up?
No, I mean, this one is whether it needed special use permit.
Okay.
Let's deal with one at a time. The height's
Okay.
gonna come.
Sorry, I thought we moved on from that.
So you're talking about 110-15 C5, structure used in connection with a principal structure. Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So is there anything else with respect to that? Actually, that covers the first two, because one of them invokes 110-45, and one of them invokes 110-15. So I think, is that what you're, how you see it here, that the,
That it invokes that, yeah, and it also invokes 110-33C
okay, and that is,
about non-conforming structures.
I'm sorry, which one is that?
110-43C.
43 is not referenced anywhere.
Not on my
It's
notes.
not in anything.
It was probably on the original application.
110-43,
Okay, let's skip that one.
110-45 and 110-15 both are. Okay. Okay, so that, is that what you want to present with respect to points 1 and 2 then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
All right.
thank you.
Okay. Aaron, do you want to respond to those? So it would probably be just to respond to those before going on to the other stuff.
Yeah, so that, the determination of the planning board that the utility pole was not part of the application was submitted to the planning board on 10/31 in preparation for the November meeting, the planning board meeting, which the applicants were attending. And they have reviewed the paperwork, the entire application over and over again by coming to the Tracy here. Let's see.
I'm sorry,
Let's see.
can,
I'm not done. No, I'm not done. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so 10/31 after speaking with the attorney and the applicants, it was determined that the removal of the two 50-foot wooden utility poles and the replacement of one 60-foot metal utility pole, whether in the same footprint or not, was shown on the plan, so it was not part of the expansion and not subject to review as the expansion, because the utility pole replacement is not reviewable. I also went to Ghent and got information on that entire 32.8 miles of poles.
Did you see the response?
Yep. Back here it states for Columbia County. The local law states no permit is required for any activity subject to review jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission under Article 7 or Article 8 of the Public Service Law. Provisions of this local law do not apply in those municipalities that have assumed the responsibility of the administration and enforcement of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. The Uniform Code does not apply to the project, does not contain any substantial provisions applicable to transmission facilities that are not buildings, such as structures, conductors, or switching stations. To the extent that the Uniform Code is interpreted to encompass the project's expansion of the Churchtown switching station, all of which done by permits by the Public Service. Essentially,
What document is that? What are you reading from?
yeah, that was, I got from Ghent regarding the 32.8 miles of the big metal utility poles. So essentially, anything that's regulated by the Public Service Commission does not require, they didn't, essentially, NICEAG probably didn't even have to come to us at all, they could have done it based on the Public Service Commission law. And they could have just gone and done it without even coming to us.
There is no PSC oversight on this
Yes,
project.
yes, there is.
Just real quick, for some public
Yeah.
hearing, seem to address the board.
Yeah. And as far as the height regulations and the table of use, the table of use specifically states height regulations, no building can exceed 35, not structures.
Not on height yet.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Just, right now, I'm just trying to resolve the question of whether or not
Needed.
the pole needed to be included in the special use.
Yeah, no, pole replacement, because if you require permits for pole replacement, it's gonna set an unsafe precedent. So anytime a pole gets replaced, whether it's weather or accidents or regular maintenance, you're gonna need a permit. And we've got documentation of utility pole replacements all over Columbia County, none of which received a permit. They're not in the same footprint, they're not the same height, all over, and including Canton, New York. Not a single permit was issued for any pole replacements. And they're essentially replacing two 50-foot wooden poles, A-frame structure, with one 60-foot pole. If anything, that's a decrease in nonconformity, if it were to be, but it's not.
Can I respond?
Are you done, Aaron?
I'm done with that one.
Done with
We
that
want to go
one,
into the
sure.
height regulations next, okay?
So we've been trying to respond to this for months. It's not a replacement. It's not a replacement.
Well,
It's a replacement.
Yeah,
They're
there's-
removing two
I mean,
50-foot poles.
we're gonna have a difference
They're
of
taking
opinion
the
about
wire-
what it
yeah.
is and what it
Yeah,
isn't.
they're taking the wires off of the
It is-
existing H-frame structure, moving it onto the new structure. It's transmitting
not
the
like
wires
this,
from
it's
one
not-
place,
it's-
one from the
yeah.
den, switching, transfer station at the bottom to the switching station up on top.
So I actually have an email.
There's no
from
new
the-
wires, no new, nothing, no change of use, nothing.
So there is 2 new circuits going onto the transmission lines. That's why it's being enlarged, so it is intensifying and increasing in size. And I have an email from the PSC, they do not have jurisdiction over any substation that's below 65 kilovolts. So they confirmed that they don't have oversight over this project. PSC doesn't have oversight, it's not pre-authorized, it's not state pre-authorized, that means it falls completely under local zoning regulations. And on top of that, the height regulations, I'm reading here from one of her responses, it says structures, not buildings. I don't know if I'm reading it wrong, but I read structures for heights, not buildings. So I don't really know why we're limiting that to buildings. If I wanted to build a 35-foot tall structure in my yard, would I need
Sorry,
a building
we're-
permit?
We're still not on height. We're gonna go to height. This is also.
Well, she was talking
Well,
about
I am
it
talking
versus
about-
structure versus building, but yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, the question still we're working on is whether
For
we
height.
expect special use.
Is there a time when we do have NICEAG, I'm sorry, you're from NICEAG?
Yes.
And you are from NICEAG as well? In what capacity are you from NICEAG?
Capacity, you mean?
Yeah, well, to what level? Are you are you an engineer or are you
I'm a director of projects for
director
NICEAG.
of projects?
Yes.
And you are?
Unit manager for this project.
And I'm the government relations manager for this region.
Is there a time when we hear from them? And
Yeah, I mean, it probably makes sense to do it on the point by point, rather than have it all the end, just so
Yeah.
we can address the question.
a lot of this got, thrown in a bag and it's all mixed up. Part of the problem is trying to sort it out and go, that's why we're trying to do it one by one. So if there was anything in relationship to what the applicant stated that you'd like to clarify, or do you have anything to add? I don't know if that's,
You might as well invite them to, yeah, I think, as I said, might as well do it on a point by point.
yeah.
I say people want to add anything or speak to this question of whether if you ever need to, special use permit, this would probably be a good time to do it over time at that point.
Yeah.
I mean,
talking about this.
I'm not sure that we're gonna comment, we'll answer questions that the town has done in regards, you know, if there are any points that you have. Okay.
Whatever you-
Okay, yeah, okay. I didn't want to just have you sitting there without me. Yeah, no, go ahead, no.
I was just gonna say, I do realize utility poles are replaced every day, they need to be replaced. I think the real, detail here is that it's not conforming structure, and that requires a little bit more input and thought. And I'm not sure why it was removed from in the first place.
It's an existing non-conforming structure.
Yes,
So it was here since,
Let's go to the specific.
right,
I'm gonna go to specific code sections. So, one of them here is a question for requiring special use permit, section 11045A. 11045A says, upon approval of a special permit by the planning board, a non-conforming use, which is prohibited by this chapter, may be expanded or enlarged by up to 25% of its size at the time it became non-conforming. So, based on that provision alone, if the pole, first of all, is the pole a non-conforming use? If it is a non-conforming use, it may be expanded up to 25% with a permit. So, is it a use? I mean, you know, subject to review. So, I don't know, anything more to be said on that? Okay. Second one.
that was the second one.
I know.
No, that was the.
That's the
first one.
third one, right? The 25%.
No, that was about, the third one's about the, I think about the facility in its entirety. All right, then point 2 is not required, whether it was or wasn't required without special use. 11015E3. This is multiple uses. And 11015C5
So that, yeah, that one.
accessory uses. You want to say something?
Yeah, there, I'm sorry, I think it was was it C5? I'm not positive on that, I'm sorry. I thought we had it down written, but it.
11015C5 says accessory uses or structures used in connection with a principal structure or use
Right.
subject to site plan review should be subject to the same approval requirements as the principal structure or use unless otherwise specified in this chapter.
Thank you.
Anyone have anything further to say on these? All right, the third one, the applicants appeal the determination that the expansion of the utility facility was permissible because it was within the 25% expansion of a non-conforming use. And the applicants allege that the facility expansion exceeded 25%. So Again, first threshold is, when was that determination made?
Did you establish that on number 2 as well?
I think those are kind of both have the same
Okay.
question. It makes it December 5th in there instead of October 31st. So the third one, when was the determination made that the facility could be approved with a special use permit because it was within the 25% expansion? You
So,
said-
I would say that determination follows the building zoning permit that was issued in agreement to the 25% increase. I'm not sure what the date is on here, but down here it says 11/7. But I don't think that was when this was issued.
We only saw it when it was delivered, what, last week?
Yeah.
Just recently.
Date permit 11/25, so 11/25.
I'm sorry, you said it follows what?
The zoning permit that allowed for the expansion.
And I'm sorry, did you say 11/25,
Yeah, 11/25.
11/20, November 25th, 2025?
Yes.
Thank you.
And so I was reading the code enforcement officer's February responses that were just submitted yesterday. And there's some discussion about the footprint. I'm a little confused about why it's been reduced to 105 square feet of proposed increase. I mean, that's a 10 by 10 square, 105 square feet. It's much larger than that. So I'm not sure what those numbers that she provided are. The ones we were provided by NICEAG is that it's increasing 2,374 square feet or 0.05 acres. The existing utility structure, if you look on the graphs, is approximately 80 by 60, and that square foot is almost 5,000 square feet. So that's almost exactly half of the existing structure. So that is way more than 25%. And then if you include the pole, which was not included, I don't know, you don't even have to include that, but it's over 25%. And I did want somebody, zoning board of appeals, somebody to look at those drafts, and I don't think it's ever been looked at, the numbers. I'm obviously not an architect, that's why I was asking Village and the zoning board of appeals to look at these numbers and look at the expansion, and I mean, I'm getting different numbers from her, different numbers from NICEAG. I'm honestly kind of lost to what the expansion is, but I've cross-checked it with another person who does architecture for a municipality locally, and they found it was over 25% as well. So I'm asking that somebody else please take a look at those numbers. Because every time I look at them, they're over 25%.
And you had some documentation that supports this?
Yeah.
We have NICEAG people here.
Yes.
Do we want to ask them to chip in on that?
We could in a minute.
It's an interesting question.
The 2370 square feet, you said?
Yeah, 2,374 square feet or 0.05 acres. And this is on the scope of work from
What is that?
This
Where
is
is
the
it? Is
scope
that the
of
actual,
work.
is that the
NICEAG.
area to be, is that the area of the project, or is that the actual
Yeah,
expansion
so-
of this facility?
The expansion. So the project is to expand the footprint of the existing substation for a total of approximately 2,374 square feet.
What document is that?
The scope of work from NICEAG. And we were also told all along the way that it was increasing 0.06 and then it switched to 5 acres. That's been pretty consistent all along, that it's been 0.05 acres. which is much more than 100 square feet. That's just for the pad mount for the new transformer that's going in.
And this is all within their footprint, it's all within their property, right?
Yes. I think that's all I have to say on that point.
Should we ask for copies of that?
I can explain how I got my
Yeah,
numbers here.
that would be good.
Okay, so I took the footprint of the structure inside the fencing and the current length of the existing fence, because the fence is non-conforming because it's 7 feet. It's a 6-foot chain link fence with 1-foot barbed wire. So the structure inside the fence is the 2,096 square feet, along with the shed that's in there. Like, when somebody puts a fence around their backyard, you're not gonna calculate the entire backyard as the footprint of the structure. So that's how I got that number. And 25% of that area, which is the maximum allowable for 11045, would be 524 square feet.
I'm sorry, with the 2096 is what exactly?
The square footage of the structures inside the fencing. And then one of the breakers is going inside the footprint of the current structure. So the other breaker, which is just the concrete pad, which is that's all that we can approve, is the location of this stuff. The pad is, 25% would be 524 square feet. The proposed additional breaker that is outside of the footprint of that structure is 105 square feet. That's the 5%. You add the additional fencing, it's way under 25%, and again, even if you included the extra 10 feet, well, actually, it's not extra 10 feet because you have two 50-foot wooden poles, it's 100 feet, and now you have a 160-foot pole. So even if you were to include that, that's still a decrease in the non-conformance.
It's an increase in height though.
Well, I'm confused. Are we talking about different things?
Yeah, yeah.
It really sounds like you're talking about an increase in the pad size of so
Yes,
much.
because you're not
You're
gonna
talking about the increase in something, but I'm not sure what it
I'm
is.
talking about, which is what I thought we were talking about all along, which is the expansion of the footprint of the substation and everything in it. I did not know that we segment
Yes.
it into.
Yeah, because like when somebody fences in their backyard, you're not gonna calculate their whole backyard as part of the structure.
Right, but.
Same thing with the fencing around the utility structure. You have the fence and then you have the structures inside there.
Okay,
So
but.
That's not
you're
the whole
suggesting
fence is-
she's talking about the fenced-in
That's
area?
what, she is talking about that, because that's what NICE
The only
had
area we can
calculated.
talk about, yeah.
Yeah. So, again, you're not gonna calculate the entire fenced-in area as the whole utility structure.
So, but if you can't, okay, so how do you regulate, how do you conceive a 25% increase
By this
for
calculation.
for electrical wires?
Just like, you don't, because
Is
they
there a
don't
physical-
regulate the infrastructure.
I'm sorry, can you stop interrupting me, please? I lost my train of thought. I'm unclear how you measure a 25% increase when there's new height, new tower, new breakers, VT transformers going in, new wires. How do you calculate that whole thing in 25%? What gets left out, what gets included?
So can you re-explain that, Karen?
Yes, so because we don't regulate the infrastructure, the uniform code, all I'm doing is approving the actual location of where it's at. And besides that, there's no new wires, so we're not calculating any wires, and we wouldn't calculate them anyway, because the existing wires are getting moved from the H-frame structure going onto the new tower. That's all.
You follow that?
Well, I don't agree with it because I have evidence that there are new wires going in from
Yeah, but the
NICEAG.
wires aren't part of the can't be a part of the.
No, and I have to go by what NICEAG put on their application.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't investigate.
But changing it from what is here and here to now here is, do you see that confusion? Is she suddenly coming up with all these numbers? Where
Well, I don't think
was
she's just
it
coming up
No,
with
I
this stuff,
didn't.
it's
No, I
calculated.
mean, no, I'm not saying
Yeah.
it like that, I'm just saying it's out of the blue, I mean, not coming up with it like you're making
It's
it up.
not clear from the
I'm just
start.
saying, from the start, I mean, we've been emailing since October, and I've been asking these questions in emails back and forth repeatedly, and I am only now coming with this information. I believe it is beyond 25%. I would suggest we have an architect or someone with more, skills take a look at it if we can. But I don't want to nitpick and argue about it, so.
Well, I would say that it's very vague, what is an expansion? It could be an expansion of equipment, it could be expansion of capacity, which has a whole list of other terminology, which is very vague. All of it is very vague, all of this is very twisted, complex, and it's big. And that's why we're all sitting here sweating.
Yeah, I think there's been some miscommunication about it in general.
So is it legal to make complaints about the application? Somebody just said that, sort of. I have problems. My problems are with the material that we're working with the applications, with the, short environmental assessment form?
That's not what we're doing.
That's not allowed.
That's what we're doing, yeah.
Okay. I have problems with the way that it's been presented to us. It's very confusing. The terminology is crisscrossing, and it's a lot.
And it seems to be segmented. There is a code, it is in the local code, and it's also a New York State code under SEQA environmental review, that anything on one parcel has to be considered, as one project. It can't be, segmented into this little one, the transmission tower is separate, but this allows for 25%. And considering it's also non-conforming use, it absolutely needs to be respected that it be considered as one project. And I don't think that's been the case. So yeah, I'm going off of what we were told, which was that it's increasing 0.05 acres.
Well, I think that when Erin explains where she came up with these numbers, it's something that, she's the code enforcer, and you need to listen to how that's determined. You can't come up with a formula on your own and say that this is the way it should be.
I'm not saying it's my formula, I'm saying that's what the information I was given through NYSEG. And that was the information that the building permit was based off.
Can NYSEG verify these numbers? Can you verify the expansion numbers or help with that?
There may have been numbers in there regarding the site disturbance, but that's a different portion of the permit application. And it would require different measures. And so, if we're disturbing an acre, that puts us into a different category. So,
Disturbing meaning putting a pad in or putting...
correct. Right. So it wasn't a calculation about structures or existing structures, but a calculation of ground disturbance.
And in the application, what NYSEG had, you must have had a number.
Yeah, they had the square footage of the extra fencing that they were increasing out was the 0.05 acres. Yeah, but that's not what I used to determine the 25%.
And that was on the application, that went.
Yeah, the application read that it was 0.05 acres was what the fencing was increasing.
So we have two sets of numbers here, one for the building itself and one for the fenced-in area. Is that what we're saying here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you understand what she's saying about a structure. You wouldn't include the entire backyard in that, just for that house, in that you just deal with the expansion of that house, need to,
Yep. And that was much less, it was like 10%?
Yeah, about 5% of an increase.
Less than less.
Yeah.
Erin, she mentioned in the beginning of this, number 3, about the expansion, mentioned a date of 11/25.
Oh, yes, that was
Did you have
8/15 when I denied the building permit application and sent it to the planning board.
8/15?
8/15.
And one, I'll get ahead of myself. One of the one before that, number one, was that 12/7 versus
My date on the letter to the planning board was 10/31.
10/30.
All right, is there anything else on point 3? At the 20
So.
section? Number 4. Scale of code enforcement officer's determination that the pole did not require an area variance for height.
And what was the date of that? Did you file that? Do you have a date for when that was?
That would be the same date, 12/12.
12/12. Or 12/7,
12/7. So, as I was saying before, this is written by the code enforcement officer from January, and it talks about height variance, and there's a quote here from the code, and to me, I read structures, not buildings. I didn't know that height regulations were only for buildings. I can't find that in the code. I'd like that to be clarified because I don't see it there. It's for structures. There's industrial structures have height limits as well and must be reviewed. Obviously, you can provide variances if it's publicly necessary, but it does have to follow those rules, just like, everyone else that has to abide by them.
Could you went over that, clarify the structure?
Well, I mean,
It's
I'm
long.
gonna let everybody
Okay.
make their points.
All right,
before-
okay.
And on top of that, if it is, right, if we were to assume it's a non-conforming structure, that expansion would also have to be considered for 25% increase. That's pretty much all I have to say about the height. It's,
All right, so I mean, it seems you referenced 11014B and 110.8, which is okay, 11014B, height regulations. Okay, except as stipulated below, structures not exceed the applicable district height regulations unless approved. Goes on and on. Okay, there's that one, and then there's 110.8, dimensional regulations. Referring to the density control schedule. So, okay.
Excuse me.
All right. Anything further on that? Just for pencils.
Yeah, so that determination again would be 10/31 on the letter to the planning board. And the maximum building height comes from the density control schedule, where it says maximum building height. Maximum stories, 1. Maximum, or minimum stories, 1, maximum stories, 2.5, maximum height, 35 feet. And right above that it says maximum building height. And there is a definition for a building and there is a definition for a structure under the zoning code. And they are definitely different.
What is the structure?
it is.
I mean, what is the structure height?
There isn't one.
Oh, there isn't one, okay, yeah.
So there's not a height limit on any structures in the village.
Not clearly.
Yeah, well, it's twisted and turned as far as the density control schedule is concerned.
But
Yeah,
there is
this-
industrial use on the density control schedule, so I would say that's industrial.
Industrial, that's a different zone. That's the
Yeah.
industrial
Yeah.
zone, which is like down by Crown Plastics.
Now this one, this is got a lot of different components.
The density control schedule, you look at the residential
You have to look in
zone.
your- you have to look in the
Yeah.
zone.
So-
Yeah, it's
So-
35 in residential too.
Yeah, so these are some of the things to be considered. There's the 11014 that they talked about, which talks about structures shall not exceed the applicable district height regulation. And then lists some things down below, where code enforcement officer, building inspector can authorize them. There's also 110.8, which talks about dimensional regulations, it says except in hereinafter provided no building or structure or part, it says no building or structure or part thereof shall be erected, altered, enlarged, rebuilt, except in conformity with the provisions of the density control schedule. And then it says, proceeds to go on and say, no building shall exceed the maximum height. The density control schedule, as Aaron says, includes a heading for maximum building height. It also contains a note at the bottom, see section 110-24 for requirements, separate from the maximum building height, but just on the density control schedule in the corner, there's just a note that says see 110-24 for requirements for accessory structures and uses. The table itself is labeled to regulate the following things: lot dimensions, yard setbacks, lot coverage, building coverage, and building height. So by the language of the control schedule, two of those categories relate to buildings only, building coverage and building height. But then lot coverage there's building coverage, there's also lot coverage. Lot coverage includes things like road, sidewalk, concrete, asphalt, and otherwise. This is from the definitions, which are structures. So lot coverage includes buildings and other structures. Building coverage includes only buildings. Setbacks referred, according to the definition of the code, the distance in feet from a given point of line to the nearest vertical wall or other element of the building or structure. But the height only refers to building height. So this is where there's a lot of complexity and ambiguity here, because there are things in the density control schedule that clearly do regulate structures, whether they're buildings or not, and there are other things in the density control schedule that are labeled to regulate buildings. And then, as you mentioned, there is the section 114, or 110-14. So there is some conflict and inconsistency among the different parts of the code about what gets covered. There are a lot of legal interpretation things, and one of the things is that there are provisions in cases, it's a well-established principle. There are several things, but one of them is that when there are ambiguities in codes, they're to be construed in favor of the property owner. But then at the same time, anything that's written in the code is not to be made completely irrelevant, and you try to reconcile potentially conflicting things. So there's a lot to chew on.
Ken, I have some questions. When you talk about the code, what code book are we referring to?
Usually when I'm saying code, I'm talking about the Village of Chatham.
This one.
Okay.
And at one point, I thought you had said that with utility poles, they were regulated by the state and exempt from local control. So I'm lost.
I said they may be. I said they may be. Some may be. I haven't found really crystal clear guidance.
So we're in confusion at that level.
There's a lot of these
Yeah, it's very
are tough things to sort out. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. There are provisions that suggest different things. And there are some different legal principles that come into play too. So these are going to have to be kind of weighed and to figure out what the proper determination is. So, anyway, that's why this is a tricky matter. Anyway, so, I don't know, does anybody else have anything further to talk about with respect to whether the building height applies? No?
Can you, Aaron, can you state again or just say what again your response to the height was?
That the determination was made on, 10/31, when I wrote it.
No, not the date, what you said about the height, why it didn't need a variance?
Well, because it's a utility pole replacement, but also that, the table of use states, the maximum height for buildings. And this is the
Okay.
structure,
Okay.
yeah. And building is defined as something that houses people, animals.
Yeah, and the reason it's 60 feet versus, I mean, the poles that were existing are down, right? So that's
Yeah, there were two-
an area variant, that's an area density, to go back to the other, is
Right.
less, it's a
Yes, there were
decrease.
two 50-foot poles.
Right.
And now it's one 60-foot.
Two 50-foot poles,
It's an age frame.
and so one 60-foot pole.
Right.
Excuse me. There are other codes that
Yeah.
govern utilities, and
Yeah, that's what,
there's like nationally adopted codes, there are a couple of different ones.
Yeah.
Different states adopted different use of ones, but they regulate the height of things, how high the wires have to be. You know, there's a question of preemption,
right.
where the state often may or may not, yeah, that's in Washington.
That's not here, though. This
I can't.
case, there's no preemption.
Well, that's
even
the
reached-
question, I mean, that's
Yeah.
No,
what I
that's,
mean.
that's,
Because I even reached out to
that's-
the Department of
that's
Building
true.
Standards and
I'm
Codes.
sorry, one at a time.
I even reached out to the Department of Building Standards and Codes, and they replied specifically that the uniform code, which is what I, enforce, does not regulate the utilities infrastructures specifically on their property especially.
Okay.
And it's fully on their property, it's not a right of way.
And that's,
So does that mean that there's no basis, or that it goes to the town, the village?
No, the uniform
it
code,
doesn't.
which is why a building permit would
It's
not
not
be issued
applicable.
for any of the structures, because we don't regulate. All, the zoning was just regulating the location of the fencing and the breaker.
but zoning would still apply, right? So like height.
well,
Well,
it's
not
not
a village.
necessarily, that's what
one of
we're.
the things that gets very, makes it additionally confusing is that there are things, normally the jurisdiction of the review occurs when somebody comes in to apply for a permit for something. If there's no requirement to come in to apply for a permit, there isn't any opportunity to invoke anything. Like, and I'll just give an example where this, I've seen this come into play in other towns, where, like, clear cutting trees. Normally, there's no building permit required for that. And so even though it's land, you know, there may be provisions in the code that would seem to implicate that, but because there is no building permit required to do it, nobody ever has to approach the town, and so there isn't any ability to regulate it. And so
Right.
that's where this is something that doesn't require a building permit. There is no obligation on the part of somebody to come to the town before doing something that doesn't require a permit.
Unless
So-
it required a special use permit, right?
Well, that's,
But that would be after the fact, that would be after that determination.
to come in and just change a pole, nobody needs to tell the town, the village.
Right.
And so, that's, you know, if it's just treated that way,
But this is a non-conforming use structure, lot, the whole lot is non-conforming, and it's very contiguous to the other large facility right across the water.
but I mean, that's why there's some conflict here, because there isn't any requirement for a building permit at all. And so, sometimes there are things, if you don't need to come in and get a permit, there's no opportunity, you know, the code enforcement doesn't have the authority to
Yeah.
impose something when they don't need a permit for it in the first
So,
place.
I'm just confused how, like, building, like digging 16 feet down and pouring cement, how does that not require a building permit? I mean, it's building, you know, and it is on private land in the
Well, that's why, I
village.
mean, really, this is literally why we're here, because there are different ways of looking at these things. You believe it should be looked at a certain way, code enforcement look at a different way. We're trying to figure out.
And it's not
I have to go by
Erin's
what the
opinion.
state says.
It's not her opinion
Yeah,
about what she
what the
thinks
state
it
and the
should
code
be.
says.
It's her, she's following a code, she's following a law, she's following
Right.
regulation.
And that is fine, but my question is, I got confirmation from the PSC, I called them, I contacted them, they said they do not have jurisdiction over this project. So if they don't have jurisdiction, the state doesn't have jurisdiction, and there's no building permits or special use permits, who's overseeing it? Nobody, it's just being erected.
Who does oversee your projects at the end of completion?
I'm talking about the poles specifically.
No, I'm asking them, who oversees, when you're done, you have an inspector that comes out and says, this is done?
We have our internal inspectors, and we do a lot of testing before we energize anything, that's new. So
But I don't think
that's
that-
done internally.
But we also follow the national electric codes.
Right, okay. And the
That
determination
supersedes
of,
everything.
the termination of a 60-foot pole wasn't arbitrary, I can
Correct.
imagine.
So, guys, I've been here many times, and I've been trying to explain you many times. We are just moving the two lines, the two circuits from one wood pole, as you are seeing, one frame, to a steel pole. What happens that if we want to put those two lines in one steel pole, it has to be that pole, because
Has to be done, I'm sorry, I missed that
it
last.
has to be that structure.
Okay.
Because, there were two, and now we are doing just one, which is something better, I understand. And it has to be a self-contained pole, and it has to be that pole, and it's that simple. So that's why we selected that pole. We try to optimize as much as possible that pole. And we are going from 2 to 1. And that's the only thing we are doing. We are just moving those two circuits. We are not adding another circuit, as you were saying in the beginning. We are just moving the two circuits from the frame, which is wood, which is worse, can get fired, can fall down, to the new steel structure, which is just a support structure. There's not going to be any antenna, any microwave, anything else.
Was, this might not pertain, Ken can cut me off if he wants to, but were the two wooden poles that were up there, were they, what condition were they in? Was there a safety issue?
I don't know what the condition is, we do inspections, yes. But when we're designing new poles, we have to conform with the latest National Electric Safety Code. So that has, ground to wire clearances, it has wire to wire clearances, so.
And that had to do with an upgrade to your facility and your infrastructure.
So anytime we're replacing structures, they have to conform to the latest National Electric Safety Code.
Somebody hits a telephone pole with their car and it comes down, would you upgrade, you have an opportunity to upgrade that pole? Is that not just replace it, but would it be, because some of the pictures that Erin showed me were, a lot of small poles and then big poles next to them and poles that were leaning and poles that weren't.
Right, so when we do a replacement project, we usually raise them to increase the clearances between the telecommunications and the electricity.
A lot of the old poles are like 35-foot poles. Those are from 60, 75, 80 years ago. They're no longer, we can no longer use those. The poles around are not big enough because the infrastructure that's on top. If you think of 80 years ago, a lot has changed in 80 years. So we have to go, the new electrical codes change.
Yeah.
So you have to always keep up. So whenever we get a pole that's broken, we're putting in a 45 or 50-foot pole, depending on what else is there. Whatever the voltage is, whatever all the other attachments are, we can't put another 35-foot pole in.
I'm just trying to get a picture of the increase of 10 feet it's just not arbitrary, it's just not.
So the situation is that at the end, what we are doing is replacing the breaker, which is better. It's better isolated, it's more modern, more reliable, it's much better for the circuit, for the distribution, okay? That breaker, the bushings are higher, and they cannot connect to the existing wood pole because it's not good, that pole is not good anymore. And the strength, no, the reactions from those connections to the breaker require that steel pole. And the steel pole has to be that one because we have optimized as much as possible because we are just moving those two circuits to the steel pole. And that's the reason, because we are installing a new breaker which is much better for the distribution and it's the most optimal design. And again, we are not installing any telecommunication, any antenna, anything. That steel pole, you can see it, you can go, you can visit it. It's just steel. It's
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you to repeat really clearly, because one of the questions had to do with what other equipment is going to go on that pole, such as microwaves or... And you're saying none of that, it's only replacing...
Yes, we've been discussing about that for many months. I've seen those flyers, I've seen many things being said here with no concept, and I promise there's nothing else in that pole. It's just an empty steel structure, just to hold those cables.
This is the product of segmentation. So if you go up there and when NICEAG's not there and you speak to RG&E, you get a whole different picture.
RG&E.
RG&E is not here. RG&E
They're the people that are,
But they told us something else. They told us it was like being reconfigured and that there was, and they're the ones doing the rewiring up there.
But there's nothing else, it's just an empty steel pole.
Okay, but that's not what we were told.
Well,
It's
I've
being
been here 3
reconfigured
times.
because of the lines coming into the new breaker. And then that new breaker is not sitting exactly the way it was in the, the old footprint.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't wanna
That's
get-
the
I don't
only
wanna get too
reconfiguring
far.
that's being done.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far off onto that, because we're still...
But
But it does address these people's main
No, I
concern.
know, and that's why I brought it up. I wanted to make sure that, there's a reason, there's an engineering reason, there's an infrastructure reason why it's 60 feet versus 50 feet, or why it's, those things pertain to,
We're in compliance with the National Electric Safety Code, and, the designs have been performed by professional engineers registered in the state of New York.
I've been here many times, I'm trying to explain. I don't know why you rely on people going from RG&E. I'm here,
Well, it's hard because there's, so many different subsects, agencies, involved in the project, but thank you, NICEAG, for that clarification. Yeah, and I don't know, I guess our main concern is, what is not being said, because, there's things that I've read in some of the FOIL requests and emails that I've received, that do talk about new wires going in, and I didn't bring them, but I can upload them, I can send them to you, there are new wires going on top, and it is increasing in capacity, and it's confusing, because then we're told, no, it's not increasing in capacity, but, the original application says to increase capacity. It is essentially to, the pole is, has a capacity of like 200. It's on the graphs.
We're still on the question whether it is a height variance. That's the only question.
Right,
I
right,
want to get
we're
back to that,
divulging.
because I don't want to,
So what was our next, are we done with
Is there any
the
number
number
now?
4?
Anything more than 4? Whether it is a height variance? Okay.
Typically, the elements that require a permit in a substation are the fence, because it's usually, barbed wire is usually not allowed in the height. But again, the variance usually goes back to the National Electric Safety Code and protecting the public from the equipment. The other item that typically requires a building permit is the control house itself, of which we're not expanding.
If it was going in tomorrow, it was brand new, it was a new site.
If it was a new, right,
Yeah.
those are the two elements that would require a building permit
Yeah,
Essentially the fence and the control house.
in the control house.
Yeah.
Yep.
and I just wanted to clarify one, just gonna go back, I know we're gonna move forward, but when they talk about new wires going in, is it replacement wires, or are they talking about additional wires? I mean, if the new pole's going in, I'm sure you need to put new wires in, but is new wires being confused with additional wires? Because what I'm getting is that they think it's like, or you're under the impression or been told that it's more power wire, more lines coming into the pole
So
and leaving the pole.
you have to understand that the cables are not elastic, no? So if we move the pole, we move the cables, maybe they don't get to the point where they are supposed to.
Yeah.
So we have to put new continuation of the wire. But the circuits are the same, it's just two circuits moving from one pole to from one frame to one pole.
So there's not new,
Not additional.
two new
It's
circuits?
the 615 and 622, I believe, it's two same circuits.
All right, yeah.
So is that, I mean, I'm asking him, but I have to go through you, so, is that like today, or is that for the next 6 months, or is that for the next 5 years? I mean, what's that promise covering? I mean, if you come back in 5 years, you want to do something.
Yeah, we're number 5. I didn't want to cut you off, Terry, but.
Go ahead. It's law, you have to put up notices, I didn't get one.
Right.
It's the law.
She's still stuck on
I'm still stuck on that, sorry. All right, so, and also, so well, then where is my stuff? 110.3, A, B, and D? I put that on the list.
110.8. I'm sorry, which ones?
110-3, A, B, and D.
Yeah, and those are just very general.
Oh, no, you know, very important. That's why I saved them for last.
With respect to what point?
With respect to the whole shebang. Now,
Well, we're not dealing with the whole, that's the thing.
I'm dealing with the whole shebang. I look out my window.
This board isn't,
We're not.
and even in
You
your,
gonna listen to what I have to say?
I've got to explain that you put in written submission, appeal for grounds and complaint. And those are not, you put them on the cover page, but you didn't apply them to any of the objections. I mean, there's a whole list of them, those are not referenced in any respect. We talked about it last meeting, those were not brought into it. So we don't have any specific decision that you cited to those.
You didn't give me a chance. I tried several times and you kept on shutting me up. So what I've done is I've written it.
Wait, well, first of all, none of it was in here. You list a whole bunch of, you do list a bunch of things, those are not referenced in any respect. So, I mean, I'll pull them up and we can look at them, but hold on a second. Let me come back to that because I want to actually get on to the next one, we'll come back to it. I do want to say one thing. I know you shake your head and but I do want to tell you this.
Yes.
Your actual submission of papers, from a legal standpoint, are completely deficient. If you walked into a court with these, you would have been thrown out without a second look. We have actually went to great lengths at the last meeting to try to understand what your points were, to go through the code, to give you an opportunity to continue to describe what things were things, but your actual submissions were not sufficient in any respect.
I would say that
I know you're not, and actually, that's unfortunately, but this is a legal proceeding.
Right, so-
Sometimes you do need.
That's why we go through
Yeah,
them.
because
And
there's
we have
no
tried
forum.
we really actually have
that.
tried to let you make your case orally to ask you questions for clarification and not just say, this is no good, go away. Okay, we didn't do that. But you have to have referred things to complaints so that someone can make sense of them. And so when there have been a number of enumerated objections, and the sections that you are relying on to make those things, that's what the board has to go by. And so to pull something that hasn't been connected to it, we'll go back and look at those sections in a minute, but.
So, I think the main frustration comes for there's no forum to make those complaints, right? We can only talk about what decision she made, that's the only thing we can talk about.
Yeah, that's right, because
The only way we can
yeah.
complain about what happened at the planning board and the lack of the comprehensive plan being updated in 10 years. The only way we can complain for that if we do an Article 78. So I think that's why she's frustrated, is because she's been trying to express this and there's no forum, there's no, avenue to express this on a local level without going to a Article 78.
That is frustrating.
It's very frustrating, so
But
I'm
it's
just
also-
explaining that's sort of where she's at.
I know.
And honestly, this whole project is based on what's in the comprehensive plan, right? It always refers back to what's in the comprehensive plan, what's the land use for the village, so, I mean, it is relevant.
Well, it is because we understand that it is frustrating that we have not taken a hard line about the technicalities on all of this stuff. But we're still bound by the law.
Yes, I
And so,
understand that, so we'll
but
move
let-
on.
Let me just go on to, we'll come back to those sections in a minute, but there are a couple sections. Point number 5. It's again alleging that the height variance is required should be considered, cited 11014B, but also in this case 11015G4D. That is actually, in my view, not a determination of code enforcement officer. That is in the site plan review processes. Application for an area variance is when the proposed site plan contains one or more features that don't comply with the dimensional regulations. Application may be made to the zoning board of appeals for an area variance pursuant to Article 10 without a decision or determination by the code enforcement officer. The planning board shall decide whether such area variance application, zoning board of appeals decision on same shall occur as a condition of the approval of the site plan. That actually is just not a code enforcement. So that particular plan on that basis,
Gotcha.
that's how this goes.
Okay.
And number 6 is the public hearing notice. One, is that the building department, the code enforcement officer decision, I guess to list who gets the notifications?
But that was for the applicant, the public hearing notices were not provided for what meeting? The ZBA or appeal meeting?
No.
The early on. Yeah. So
When, what decision?
So I can't say that any longer, right?
So the list of people to get notifications was, I guess, the code enforcement, you do make that list? Do you guys-
Yeah, I go off the tax roll and
Alright,
I
so
just
when
go
is that
around the
done?
property. What was that?
When the allegation that public hearing notice was not provided, when was the determination made to send out notifications into whom?
September,
We didn't get the notice, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I did see an email by NICEAG saying that they were gonna contact everyone in a quarter mile, and people across the street got notices, and we did not, so. But yes, it's probably outside the 60 days, so I don't know if that's relevant.
I'm just making a point that the law isn't being followed. That's a-
Anything else on that?
No.
Aaron, you want to talk to that one?
The original notice was sent out for the September public hearing, which is included in here. They were not on that first one. After that public hearing, which they attended, NICEAG then asked for more additional neighbors to send it to, so it was done all on Fairview Ave, some on Mill Street, and some on Center Street. And that was mid-October, and I have an email in here from Allison Group that stated she did receive it at the notice in mid-October.
What notice went out in mid-October?
NICEAG sent out the additional notice, the second notice.
Well,
for
they
the-
dropped it in our mailbox, it was not mailed to us, it was
Well,
just.
you got it, but you got it.
Well, it's illegal to use the mailbox for
Yeah.
somebody else's
Well, we didn't know,
purposes.
we didn't even know this was going on.
Wires
You
went
can't
out.
rely on that.
We didn't know any of this was happening until our neighbor told us, so the lack of notice is, I mean, it just seems weird that somebody across 66 got notice and we didn't.
I went to the tax map and measured it, and I got under 100 feet. I've walked it, I've measured it, I've looked, there's tags out
I
there.
never saw
It's-
this one on your,
Yeah, I have it in here, the,
Well, this is mine, this is.
yeah, no, I thought I saw this on something.
Yeah.
This is from
Well,
your-
this is under 100 feet,
Yeah.
hers is
Yeah,
over
yeah,
100.
yeah, I have the
Yeah.
Yeah,
measurements
that's
here.
what I saw, yeah.
Because there's a little square property that the county owns that's in between NICEAG and their
Yeah.
property.
But like, if you look at ours, you know, it depends on where you measure it from.
Yeah.
You get under 100.
Yep,
Do you have a list
It
of
sounds like-
notifications?
It sounds like originally you
Yeah.
not included, but then you did.
yes,
and
yes,
decided.
this is the original notice, and then I provided NICEAG with the second
Oh, you did?
addresses, yes. And
You
they,
supply them with addresses?
yep,
Okay.
yeah, and they mailed it out.
Mailed what out?
Um,
A second one?
Yeah, the additional notice that Allison said she received in
We
October.
got
That's not
something
what she
dropped-
said.
We got something
Okay.
dropped in the mailbox. We did not get something
Okay.
mailed with our address on
The
it.
flyers were left all over
The
town, in
flyers.
people's mailboxes.
Yes.
So,
Well, from your perspective, the first list was
yeah,
maybe in September, but then you made it,
Yes,
you
yeah.
updated it.
yeah. And they got a notice and they've been involved from the very beginning.
Okay, well, we're concerned with what you
Yeah,
did, so
yeah.
Yeah.
it seems that
Right,
we'll
yeah.
make it up, but, okay. All right.
It's not really a determination, I go off the tax roll.
Okay.
It was a little over 100 feet between NICEAG, according to my measurements, between NICEAG's and their property.
Okay.
So,
But it's not, yeah, it's not really a determination that I make regarding the code.
Well, tax maps aren't.
exactly.
Yeah, they're not,
Correct.
they're not.
And my
exact.
property in NICEAG's isn't.
Yeah, you know.
Well, that's what we have, by the law, the tax maps are, the tax bills are what are required, so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that takes us to the sixth one. Do it?
That what?
I think that, that pretty much sums up anything I wanted to say. I'm just, I'm curious as to if structures have height regulations, and then, you know, telephone pole oversight, can they just increase exponentially without, you know, zoning?
Well, these are things that we're gonna need to look into, and, I don't think we're prepared to make a decision on this tonight, that's for sure. So, we have to,
I just want to, I think this area, I would just go through.
Yeah,
the sections. So here's 110.3, A, B, and C, A, B, and D. 110.3A. To promote and effectuate the orderly physical development of the village of Chatham. B, to encourage appropriate land use in the community in accordance with comprehensive plan in order to protect the pedestrian-oriented mixed-use character of the village, preserve its historic development pattern and architectural resources, maintain its friendly small-town atmosphere, conserve and enhance the value of property, and minimize the cost of municipal services. And D, to regulate building densities in order to assure adequate access of light and circulation of air, to facilitate the prevention and fighting of fires, to prevent undue concentration of population, and to provide efficient municipal utility services. So those are what they are. If you want to
Yeah,
directly
your way is
affect
way
them.
too painful. I wrote it out and I'd like to give it to them to read in their own time, but I can like to just quickly, because it's getting really late, just say my sentiments about these three pieces. So the first one is done in an orderly way. I see this, an orderly way would be done through possibly a timeline, appreciating the project from the beginning
Terry,
to the
I'm
end.
sorry. It has to be respectful.
Okay, all right.
It's just not the forum for that.
I know it's not the
It's
forum,
not the
that's
forum.
why I
know
wrote it
it's
up
frustrating.
there.
I know
But
it's frustrating, but we can't,
Yeah.
if it doesn't pertain, if it doesn't
it
pertain.
does pertain.
If it doesn't pertain to what the determinations
So-
that Aaron made in terms of your appeal, this is not the place, if you wanted to go Article 78, correct me if I'm wrong, that
Yes,
might
for
be
the
something
planning.
that
Well,
you.
even then, I mean, well,
You know
But
what?
I don't know,
I submit this to you and I ask you to just share it with everybody
that's
else.
fine, I'll submit.
And,
Because I can't argue.
So can you say that?
Code.
what?
Can you just kind of say that?
Say that, what?
Say that. It's my
Submitting it
complaint.
from Terry Buck to Fairview Avenue, to the Village of Chatham zoning board, to Stephen Piazza, to the board, in response to the Board of Appeals meeting January 15th. It's a letter, in your response to that meeting,
those
the last
three
meeting,
pieces.
to the three issues that we just
A,
talked
B,
about.
and D.
And can we make copies of these so we can get them to the board?
See, it's getting, let's see.
I don't think we're adjourned, but if you're leaving,
Oh, no,
I'll
no,
let
no,
you
no,
leave.
no.
Why do you ask if anyone in the public wants to add?
Yeah, does anybody want to?
Any of the parties or the general public have any further things to add?
I would just say that my recommendations at the bottom of that is that I would suggest that you rescind this application and create a moratorium on all of this industrial encroachment that's happening fast, that we, as a community, are not capable of comprehending and handling. And I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about the code, comprehensive plan, being able to just like wrap your head around it, what's going on here, the whole picture, not just what's going on with the fence and the circuit breaker, but what's happening next week and what's gonna happen next year. This is a big, 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 big problem, and they started it years and years ago. In 2013, there was a lot written up about it, there was a big to-do, and then it was dropped. And now it's being brought back in, they're trying to push it through quickly, real quickly.
Who are they?
What is that?
Nice.
Well, I would just say, these are all concerns that we
Yes,
addressed at the village
yes.
board, because they all require.
Yes.
You asked me final remarks.
The town of Chatham is actually doing moratorium, so we just suggest that that is considered as a possibility. Town of Chatham is doing it so that they can, update.
I personally am one of the authors on the master plan.
Let's not get- let's-
No, I
let's-
just wanted, because I take offense to it.
No, see, no, we have one issue in front of us, or 6 things, let's keep us
Yeah.
on track with what we're doing on this meeting.
All right.
Okay.
So, are there any more comments in relation to the appeal and the points by you, by Aaron, the nice agriculture?
No, thank you.
All right, last point for now. The board, under the law, has up to 62 days, actually, you might,
Do we want to meet?
60 days from the end of the public hearing to make a determination. Sounds like from all the issues, there's some thinking and further investigation to go on.
Right, but I don't know if we need to reconvene for more, do we have, I think we have all the information we're gonna have, so.
You probably do. If you're not going to decide, you might as well just keep it open in the event you needed to ask further questions. It doesn't really change anything, but I think it doesn't seem like there's any reason to not try to decide this on the fly. There's a lot of stuff going into. You just technically keep the hearing open in the event that you want to try to get some
Right.
some minor clarifications, some questions, something between now and then.
Right. So given the time of 9 o'clock, I'd like to make that motion, to keep the public hearing open, and table this. Till
See if we can work that.
Till we have 60, how many days?
There's 62.
62 days.
We actually give you until the
Right.
April meeting if necessary, but.
And I think we'll notify the applicant if we're gonna meet again on it, or we're gonna.
Well, it's just gonna be on the agenda next month.
Yeah, it'll be on the agenda.
There's no real expectation that you're gonna have to take any more information in, but
Right.
just as a technical matter, you might as well have it open. We've heard a lot of
Thank you.
information tonight, a lot of documents to look at, a lot of things to try to sort through and make the best resolutions
Yeah.
possible. And hopefully be able to do that the next month.
Well, then we'll be planning to have a vote upon it at the next meeting, is that the idea?
Probably, you know,
Within 62 days, within 60 days, yeah,
That's two meetings away.
yeah.
I mean, that's just the laws, you have 62 days, that can be extended by mutual
That's
consent.
just the law, couldn't
Yeah, it could, we
You know,
could,
every variance, everything that comes before you is under the same thing, it's 62 days from the time of the,
we're just not gonna have a special meeting.
no, there's no reason to. Hope to have a result next month, but, you know, like I said, you're just keeping your options open if you need to get a little more information next month, maybe a couple little things you could. I hope that we can work through this whole thing to everyone's to an acceptable solution and determination by next month, according to the law. as best we can.
And if there was a decision, you'd be notified?
It wouldn't, the decision would take place at a public hearing, I'm sorry, a public meeting, so it would
Oh,
be
okay.
either
It
next.
wouldn't happen.
It wouldn't happen in the interim.
Okay.
There's no intention to call a special meeting, so.
Do we wanna vote on keeping the meeting?
I am, I haven't gotten that yet.
So, we'll shoot for the March ZBA meeting, third Thursday of March would be the next meeting of this board.
Right.
Hope to have it figured out by then.
So I'll make a motion to keep this public hearing open. The public, it's getting late, public hearing, open till next month or so within the 62-day limit.
And included in part of our agenda for
Second.
next meeting?
Huh? All in favor?
On our agenda for next meeting?
Yeah, we'll be on the agenda for next meeting, whether we meet or not, I don't know. If it's on the agenda, must we meet? If we had other business, I don't know if we'll have other business by then, so. We'll be advised, and we'll be advised.
Thank you guys, it's
Thank you.
getting late for you all.
Thank you for coming, yeah. So,
Not too good. Sit for that long.
this side has to take a phone, this side has to leave here. Thank you, yeah, take care, have a good night. Good night, thank you. So I was on a zoning board meeting to a project that I was involved with in Mexico.
Do you want to close the meeting?
Yeah, oh yeah, I closed it.